So the purpose of this segment is putting an end to war, and that is by examining the direct causes of war kind of in a mechanical way, you know. And I think putting an end to war is a realistic goal, and I think a lot of people, the costs exceed the benefits by a wide margin. Okay. So anyway, this is the anti-war room today. The peace movement may be down the hall. I don't want to create any divisions here, but we do have diversity in the Veterans for Peace. So the anti-war faction says that at least the last 10 or 20 wars were started by certain organizations of people or forms of organization that we can identify and we can see, and it's pretty blatant. And so we ask just exactly how do we stop these particular, not individuals, but the types of transactions and organization and behavior so that we can stop wars. And so the first assertion that I want to make is that the MIC, Military Industrial Congressional Complex, is a real thing. It is not a Rorschach test where it's a projection of your beliefs or anything like that. And it's not a conspiracy theory that was dreamed up by the Democratic Party to get more votes or anything like that. And it's not a way of looking at things. It's one of the great industrial complexes, I use the term great in the meaning of large, of which we have the telecom industry is sort of the granddaddy of regulatory capture. And we have agribusiness, we have media. Education is also an industry. It has many millions of people. And you have the transportation industry and so on. All of them have a government aspect. They have government protections of their monopoly, you could say, or regulation. And, but the military-industrial complex is unique in that it has pretty much won the ball game and it's captured all the revenue. You sort of notice that when you look at the federal budget. And so it has a uniquely large portion of its money coming from someone else besides its own. It doesn't deliver value to anybody. What you really have is a bunch of folks saying, oh, I'll do a favor for you, I'll do a favor for you, and the money rains down from the taxpayers. So it's really kind of an odd industry. Okay. So I'm going to say my second assertion really is that the MIC is a cause of war. It's not something that just is a servant of the public or something that we need to have so we'll have a strong defense when the time comes. It's actually a cause of war. And one of the ways in logic and reason that you determine if something's a cause is if you take it away and then the phenomenon disappears after you take it away. Well, think about that for a while. It hasn't ever been taken away, so you can't prove that it's a cause. But I'll bet you, if you took away the military-industrial complex, you wouldn't have war. As Chalmers Johnson says in all of his speeches, when war is this profitable, you're going to see a lot more of it. So for like the last, the MIC is a cause of a lot of other things besides war. It's mostly about making money for its participants. All corporations are about making money. Corporations, the nature of business is that the costs you don't have to pay that aren't on your expenses are somebody else's cost. And so a company will gladly create $1,000 of useless commotion of any kind. It doesn't matter, any arbitrary thing, any whimsical thing, as long as they can get $1 of profit. And they can get down the road with that. In fact, 200 years ago, the machines took over most of the physical work. And about 50 years ago and on, the machines took over most of the mental work. Well, what other kind of work is there? There isn't any. 95% of what we're doing is art. We could be laying out in the grass, and the same food would be on our table. It's pathetic. So war is our art, sad to say. So anyway, I define the MIC as a web of economic transactions. I worked for 20 years as a CPA in corporate accounting and finance, and I apologize for this. But what we know in accounting is transactions, and that is reciprocal transactions. People do things for other people for money. And so you have goods and services of all kinds and money. That's the classic element. But more commonly in the MIC is just goods and services in exchange for goods and services, by which I mean patronage and favors. So it's kind of like a big mutual back-scratching thing. Or as Chuck Spinney says in his film Inside the Pentagon, the self-licking ice cream cone. Has anybody seen that? It's a great video.
It's so gross.
The Versailles on the Potomac is what he calls it. The mirrors, in which the participants don't bear the cost of their actions. So anyway, a key point I have to make on transactions in business, transactions have a life cycle that starts with the negotiation and so on, and then there's a contract, there's a commitment, and then there's the fulfillment or the execution of the contract. So a transaction, you think of it as just a transaction, and it takes place at a point in time. That's not how any transactions work. They're always, there's a life cycle of transactions, and it's well supported in business software. So what we're trying to do is to get back to those earlier stages of these contracts where it's relatively easy to change them. For example, when corporations need to change their relationships or their transactions relating to a factory, for example, they just budget a couple of years out and they shut that puppy down, and then everybody's out there and they can't do anything about it, and it's over. All right? Or if they want to start up a new industry, they just crank the handle in the investment banking to get the money, start a new industry. This is where you have to be, is at the front end of these relationships in the discussion stage, in the budgeting. In the corporation budget is what I'm talking about, not the federal budget. The federal budget is captured. But corporations are capable of changing. That's all I'm saying. They can change. How to make them change is, I haven't got time. Antonia is the expert on this. She's just taking them apart. Okay, so rather than just blather around like this, let's get the real expert up here who is, what has to be done is being done in Washington, D.C., taking these guys down off of seats of power, like Duke Cunningham, it was blatant corruption, money in exchange for favors. That's only one of many examples, and I really wanted to just throw this one thing up here. I had a bunch of diagrams that would make your eyes glaze over. But you can see how, it's a closed-loop system in which it's impervious to outside influence, really, because the people are just going on doing their deals, and there's nobody, they don't need us for anything, and it's been going on for 50 or 100 years. They've captured their revenue source. They've evolutionary, for generations, they've formed themselves around this food source, and it's natural enough. All industries do this, but usually they capture some customers. They capture all the sick people, and they organize, all the industries are organized around their food source. But this one's particularly different, and that is it captured the federal government, and it captured almost all the revenue of the federal government, all the disposable revenue. And, oops, wrong one.
No, that's not my chart. That's Todd's chart. How can people see this? Get your chart, Todd.
The chart is on Washington Truth and Recruiting website. With no further ado, Antonia Uhas.
Thanks, Todd.
Well, thank you very much. And that pretty well closes it out. I just want to make one more comment. It wouldn't be fair to myself if I didn't tell you my opinion about the boycott idea. And because 3 years ago, or 4 years ago now, when this thing came over the horizon, I thought it would be a great idea if there was a general strike. And I looked at all my neighbors, and they weren't going on strike. And so I went on strike, and I quit working. I don't work anymore. I don't care about money, and I don't give a damn what anybody thinks. I'm not working at all, and I'm mad about it, and I'm not a happy camper. I haven't worked a day for $1 since 2002, and I don't plan to work another day the rest of my life. I spent all my life savings. I burned my CPA license. It's all a bunch of corrupt, rotten crap, and you know it. There's a lot of you out there who feels the same way I feel. And people, guess what? I ran out of money, and guess what? People are feeding me. People give me money to buy food. I got rid of my car. I ride my bike everywhere. You know how much you need to live on? It's peanuts. You need one bowl of chili from Wendy's every day. That's $1. Count it up. How much is it? It's not hard to live in this country. Go on strike. Get everybody else to go on strike. Withhold your cooperation. Don't give your labor. Don't give your money. Take it all back. Take your money and convert it to yen and invest it, convert it to euros. Just totally go on strike. Boycott American products, okay? Don't boycott foreign products. This is where it's at. Just totally go on strike. Get as many people as you can to go on strike, okay? That's how you go on strike. You don't ask other people to go on strike.
Ray McGovern liked it. George Mall liked it too. Made me feel real good.